Our second game in this chapter will be a game of Boris Gelfand, played versus Alexander Morozevich. And it will be a very instructive game in this type of pawn structures in Slav, and you can use the same idea. Let's see how it went. Slav, right? E3 line, then okay, A6, knight C3, B5, the main line. Here, the main line, one of the main lines. Here white is having two main moves. Well, one is move B3, after which black can choose between bishop G4 or maybe bishop F5. Also possible. Or move which Gelfand played, C5. G6, black wants to develop bishop to G7, and ideally, look, white has this pawn chain. How does black get counterplay? Ideally, black would need to break this pawn chain by pushing move E5 himself. So knight E5, knight of D7. Should white trade the knight, to trade or not to trade? He keeps the knight. Obviously, side with more space should keep more pieces. And E5, Morozevich indeed goes for the pawn push, because I guess he doesn't want something like this. Because if he goes into this business now, if he wants to push, he needs to start thinking about F6 and then E5. And I can well imagine that he was somehow not happy doing this for various reasons. For example, I can play such a move. Push, push. Now you cannot let it stand, but you cannot conveniently take, because there will be some check. And obviously king is kind of a problem. So E5 immediately. Of course, if we can push, why not? With the idea that such a trade will be a very good trade for black. He doesn't mind this. A4. White wants to keep this pawn chain. Bishop E7. Takes, takes. Takes, takes. And Gelfand played move B4. Now he wants to maybe take a pawn, because he protected his pawn on C5, and bishop on A8 is quite stupid. So black now has a choice. How should he react here? He can play some neutral move and let it stand maybe. He should play bishop G7, obviously. Or he can let it stand like this. Or he can simply take space with E4. Now, is it clever to push E4 to take space? And if not, then why? Because this is very instructive mistake here which Morozevich made. A little bit surprising player of his class would make such a mistake, but it is a mistake. Instead of keeping tension in center, he decided to take space and he pushed. And this will prove a very serious mistake. Knight F4. Now, why is this so wrong? Why so wrong to push, to take space? Okay, this bishop is stupid, but ultimately it will get out. Black took this space. Should black be afraid of move like F3? These kind of ideas, well, not easy to achieve. Black problem here that white will sacrifice a piece for those two pawns. And white's two passers, moving forward, are going to be much stronger than black's bishop. And black simply cannot stop this idea. It is going to be positional sacrifice, often seen in such a kind of positions, and therefore very handy to remember. But this is going to be a big problem for black, and problem Morozevich will not solve. He played with bishop E7. Bishop G7 will not change much. Same story. And pawns would roll. Knight F6. also same story. He can now trade bishops. But doesn't matter. For example, such a positions, 2 pawns are worth more than a piece. Actually, black's dream scenario is to give this knight for those 2 pawns and then to end with a symmetry on the other side, on the king's side, but it won't happen. Let's say this is the way game may continue. Push. Queen a7 you can't really do because take, and pawns will decide. And if instead knight a7, okay, push, bishop a3, rook b8, and now let's say small tactics, like Capablanca would say, petit combination. What is a small tactic here? This is this. And game is won, because after rook takes, pawn push, there is no way to stop promotion. And game is finished. So Moro played bishop e7. And of course Gelfand does not need a second invitation. He took. So this is typical piece sacrifice. Try to remember this motif because it is handy. It will happen in your games. Takes. Okay, this is position which Moro allowed when he pushed move in this position where he pushed move e4. He allowed this. What is here a problem? The problem is that those pawns are going to cost piece. At least. The only way for black to create some counterplay to survive is versus the white king, because these pawns, with these pawns he took space. And this is what Morozevich is going to try to do. Why this is not going to work? Simply black does not have enough pieces to hit white on a king's side. And now let's see what happens. Morozevich will now actually try to make the best out of his chances. Well, knight f6, bishop e2. Okay, Gelfand wants to push. Bishop is back to protect versus attack, and pawns will roll. Bishop e7, roll, baby, roll. Bishop c8. Okay. Why is he bringing bishop to c8? Because black needs attacking piece on a white king. Queen a4. It is white's plan is obvious, and it's also obvious that those pawns will decide on a queen side. So black is must create some play. h5. He is doing his absolute best. His absolutely best to create something on a king's side. Queen a7, knight b d7, rook c1. Okay, now pawns will decide. Knight g4, knight d1. Handy play by Gelfand, because knight is protecting weaknesses, and now pawns are ready to go. King g7. He plays rook a1 first. Bishop h4. And here is the only moment somehow when Gelfand takes some strange decision. He had to just hit the knight back. Just to hit it back. Knight back, push. And simply there is no attack. Knight b6, bishop a5. And bishop b4 is, by the way, also possible. But let's say bishop a5. Maybe I think that white was seeing ghosts in this kind of position. But ghosts really here don't exist, because black is far from being in time to create sufficient attack, and these pawns will simply decide the battle. I have to say that in a practice, of course, precision is needed, and the moment when you push pawns and how you push them, that you don't get under some stupid blockade or allow the other side to give a piece for your 2 passed pawns and to make a draw is important. And of course precision is always needed. Here Boris, he first push, knight b6. he still should have played move h3, resulting to similar thing. He played c7. And now actually suddenly black is having chance to survive. With move queen d6, black would have created enough counterplay to survive. Okay, it threatens mate in 1, so it needs to be taken. Now, do we take back? No, we don't take back, because the problem is if you take back, well, you do not have any threats. And here various moves can win. Even this can win. Takes. Tempo. The queen doesn't have any entry point. And okay. Pawns will become queen and game will be done. Tempo. Doesn't really matter. So game will be decided. Let's say that no, game will be simply decided here. Queen d6, bishop g4, rook a8. And now this is very strange position, which is probably equal. Let's say bishop takes, takes, takes. This is very, very strange play. Takes, bishop a5, knight c8, rook moves. Okay, threat is quite obvious. Threat is b6, b7. Bishop back. Push. And now queen c6. Takes. Queen c1. And the game is drawn. Of course, it is fair to say that after such a kind of moves, that it is not easy to push these pawns. When you push these pawns, that's why Gelfand needed to play move h3 to remove this knight, to remove the attacker. Because once you have this situation, in the language of computer, situation is easy. In the language of a human, white is not queening immediately, and black is having concentration of pieces, be it after doing this or playing move bishop g4. It is not like that white is having exactly free hands and white yet needs to queen. So it is a tricky situation, tricky for a human. For engine is kind of easy. So even great players, it is easy to understand they lost somehow their way. Because here, only thing which is strange to me is that Gelfand, because I know Boris for many years, if he can win a game without taking any risks, he preferred not to take it. And that he did not kick this piece back first is a bit strange. They got this, push. So Morozevich played on queen f6, which also looks promising because he's hitting a pawn with a tempo. Also promising move, because now if I take, he will take back. And he wants to take, and knight is protected. Bishop e1, bishop is now defending the king. In some comments, Boris was criticized that he played too cautiously because queen b6 is winning, because after check, takes, move bishop b4 wins. You are hitting on a rook, and apparently there is no mate. Well, to those people who criticize Gelfand, I have to say that a human player does not allow move bishop f2. A human player really doesn't do it. So it is easy from comfort of a chair to tick on a computer and understand that here there is no mate. To any human, this looks terribly dangerous. So it is easy to understand Boris that he played move bishop e1, defending his king. Bishop c8, rook a8 was the only way. and white should win, but okay, game made it easier. Now finally h3 happens. And now, okay, without this extra attacker, game is quickly over. Boris did with h3 what he needed to do a long time ago. And now it is finished. Simply not enough pieces. d5, nice move, opening up the diagonal. Queen comes in play. Queen e4. Now, well, white is also now going to get material advantage because he's collecting all those pawns. Knight f5. Queen e5. Rook moves, knight e4, knight is coming in. Queen h6, rook c4, so white now has 4 pawns. Knight e3, attempt to create some confusion. Takes, because if you take, nothing happens. I move my king. So bishop d5. Hoping for a miracle. Miracle would be some business like this, giving a check. And check. And okay, ultimately checkmate. This would be something called miracle, but okay, Boris is not crazy. Bishop takes, c8 queen. And black resigned because the problem is that he cannot even hope for some stuff because threat is made in 1. So for us, in order to learn something from this game, regardless the fact that, okay, that here the execution phase was not the best, and that Boris did allow some chances by not sending this attacker back, this solution here in the center, and idea of Moro to take space but to allow this piece sacrifice is good thing to remember. So here if you're looking with the white how to break black, you have 2 ways. One way is to play move f3 and to hope to open stuff on a king side before this piece comes into play. This is possibility number 1. And by the way, very principal possibility which often works. And possibility number 2, what Boris Gelfand did in this game, sacrifice a piece for the 2 pawns, because those 2 pawns are going to be something difficult to deal with for black, and I hope this game to have been instructive.